Well, good morning, everybody. Look who's here. Look who's here. Good morning, Jay.
Morning, Laurie. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. This is the Today Show here from the Disability Channel, and our founder and owner, Jay Stoyan, joining us to say hello. And I think you have a couple of announcements to make this morning.
I do. Well, thank you for letting me appear on your show, your fabulous show, by the way, that's getting bigger and bigger. I'm looking at the views, I'm looking at the numbers, and they keep on growing. So I want to give a big shout out to Your Home TV, Sean and Dominic down there in the USA. Our show, I think it's up to now 25Ks per episode, if not more, because we have so many moving platforms, but just on one platform, I think it's over 22K down in the USA. So congratulations, Laurie, and all your supporters. I love your team. You got such a great team, and their influx of veterans and business people with Ramin down in California and all that. So it's great. So and I know you have some wonderful guests coming up. I loved your discussion with Jeff and Doug, by the way, on your other show.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah, he's such a good guy.
He had us in stitches. Jeff Brubaker, former NHLer, and when he was talking about selling cars, we were like just killing ourselves. He tried to be a car salesman and it didn't work out.
Now I'm a hockey fan, right? So like to have Jeff Brubaker on the show, like he's a bruiser. Like I remember him as a Ranger. He was a Leaf. He was an Oiler. I don't know if he played with Doug. I can't recall if they played at the same time.
They did cross paths, yes.
Yeah, so great interview, by the way. But yeah, I just want to congratulate you. This show is really getting noticed. It's on their Facebook, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. So it's really getting noticed. I want to thank you for a great show. I'll give a couple updates and then I'll pop off. So like we were talking off camera, I want to thank Long and McQuaid. As you can see, the Denver acoustic guitar behind me. Yeah, that's going to be a giveaway. We're going to raise some funds for our October 12th fundraiser for our employment program showcasing veterans in the media industry. And I'm on my way down to the AMG Sony studios, and hopefully we're going to get a superstar named Burton Cummings to sign it. Now, I'm still working that angle, but I was with Burton a few months ago. He was so nice to me, him and his manager, for me and my girlfriend. We went to a viewing, a show out there in Wasaga Beach. So the wheels are in motion. I have to say the veteran community is really stepping up. I have a wonderful meeting coming up next week with the VA. I received a wonderful letter from the Minister Taylor. So the Minister Taylor of Veteran Affairs. I received a wonderful letter. So we're going to be connecting soon. So the vibe is great. The Invictus stuff's moving along. I want to give a big shout out to Big Records and the team out there on the West Coast. Dave and your TV down at the Super Bowl. We're going to be going in February 8th. So yeah, lots of stuff. I just wanted to hop on, give a couple updates. If people want to support, volunteer, donate to the Disability Channel, all the proceeds go towards our graduates and our employment programs for persons with disabilities and veterans. So Laurie, I really thank you for letting me be on the show today, and I hope you have a great day and a great rest of the show.
Well, thank you so much. And let me just pop our guests in so you get to see them.
Okay.
Jill Younghusband, you know Jill.
Hi, Jill.
And our newest kid to the block, Marc Girard from New Brunswick.
Hi, Marc.
Hey, Jay, how are you?
Nice to meet you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you, ma'am, for your services, both of you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
2 heroes on the screen today. So, 3 heroes. And Laurie's always a hero, too. So I don't want to exclude Laurie.
You're too
okay,
funny.
guys.
Let's make it 4 heroes.
Okay.
4. All right. Okay.
Thanks for all you do, Jay.
Have a great show, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Always nice to see our leader, and he's responsible for this whole thing. You know, it was an idea that he had 12 years ago to create a channel that would support the disability community and the veteran community. So it was a really great opportunity for me to jump in when I was invited to join the studio and join the show. So anyway, we've taken it from, 1 show a week to 5 a week, and just getting lots of great reviews. So that's a good thing. So welcome today, you guys.
Thank you.
Jill,
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Jill and Marc. And these are 2 new friends of mine, and I would love for us today. Jill, I'm going to ask you to take the lead because you have an idea of what it is that you and Marc want to do today. So over to you, Jill.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Younghusband coming to you from Edmonton, Alberta. And yes, it's today it's a focus on veterans. And Laurie, you and I were talking, chatting the other night, texting, and I was using acronyms, and you were saying, "Stop using military lingo." And I said, "But that's our culture." And then I thought, we could do a show on military culture, and we could bring Marc in because he'd be perfect because he's got
Right.
some stories, as many veterans do. And so I reached out to him yesterday, and he accepted without hesitation. So I'm thrilled. So yes. So I'd like to introduce you to my former colleague and dear friend, Marc Girard. Marc, if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Laurie, and of course, Jill. So Marc Girard, well, as I said in my DWD, my Depart with Dignity, when I retired in 2015, my certificate said 36 years of military service. Well, in actual fact, I've been in the military all my life. My dad was military. My mom rode a military ambulance to the military hospital, so on and so forth. Back in 1961, and then I did cadets, and then I joined the reserves, and then joined the regular force. So all that to say that spent pretty well my whole life in a uniform. That said, happy to be here. And along the way, I've done many things in my career. Originally, I was going to go one way, and then I decided that I was going to join the Armor Corps. Why? Because they had big machines, right? When you're a young boy, you play with tractors and all this. And you see at that time, here's this big 40-ton battle wagon. Like, I want to do that. I want to get some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I joined the Armor Corps. I did my time on those battle wagons, and then I had the opportunity to go into to reconnaissance because your squadron commander came by and says, "Well, I'm standing up a whole squad or a whole troop of armored reconnaissance, and I need some volunteers to go on a jump course." Bang! I'll do that. So away I went, and then with that, I kind of stepped away from the Armor Corps for a bit, became a jump master, parachute instructor, DZ controller, a bunch of jungle warfare, and the list of things goes on. So all that to say, I've been around the block. And of course, when you spend time in uniform, eventually they kind of push you up the ladder. So I got to do really interesting things, but not as fun as when I was on the battle wagons and jumping out of an airplane. So
Wow.
I have to ask you, how was your jungle warfare training? Because I was in the jungle of Peru last September, and I heard creatures in the jungle from the Maloca that I thought, I have no idea. Is that a frog or is that a bird?
well, I'll start off is that we were hosted by 3e Régiment d'Infanterie, French Foreign Legion, right?
Oh.
3rd Infantry Regiment, French Foreign Legion. And of course, the times that they chose for us, or the Canadian government chose for us to go, was during the rainy season.
Oh.
So for about close to a month, we walked in the rain every day.
Whoa.
And we did our training. But back to your question, Jill, about creatures. Basically, there's all kinds, and whatever's pretty and colorful wants to kill you or poison you, right?
Interesting.
There was these little tiny frogs that were beautiful to look at, like they were like yellow and green and whatnot. But the mucus on top of the frog was poisonous. Stay away, right?
Yes.
And but what I found more fascinating was the ants. We were walking, doing a patrol. We went down this one trail, and there's a dead chameleon or a dead lizard of some type. We went down, did our business, came back, and well, let me backtrack. There was ants crawling over top of this lizard. So we went back, did our business, come back, and all there was left was the skeleton. Those ants had like just gorged themselves in this animal, within like an hour to 2 hours. And
Mother Nature's cleanup crew.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, you see things like that, and you go like, oh, you know, I would only see that in on television or in a movie house or something, but
Right.
I got to see it like for myself at that time. And of
Wow.
course, you've got caimans down there, and you've got monkeys. And the funniest thing was the monkeys, right? Because at nighttime, you go into your hammock, and you could hear the brush over top of your hammock just start come to life, and then the monkeys were coming down, and you get up in the morning, and some of your gear would be over here or over there, little bastards.
Oh, what an experience! What an
It
experience!
was, it was, you know, and this is why, for me, and the way I'm living my life is to remember all those good opportunities and those great experiences I had.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of bad stuff as well, but let's have the good stuff outweigh the bad stuff. And
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so, with that, we're talking military culture today. Um, I remember the day I went up to. I joined the reserves first, and I watched my brother work through cadets, and my sister, my older sister, had joined reserves the year before, and I really had no idea what the training would entail. I mean, my dad was military. We were familiar with the environment, but I had no idea about the training. And she never told me I'd be on the ranges firing a rifle, the FNC-1, Fabrique Nationale Canadian 1. That's and so and throwing a grenade. What? And so I remember going up to the clothing stores to get all my gear. And the first thing they throw at you is a duffel bag. And then you start trying on your boots and trying on the combats and trying on your all your gear. And I had no idea what I was in for. It was and meeting other young people doing the same thing. You know, we're all 17, joining the reserves. We're going to be working hard, you know, in the coming weeks, and it was an interesting experience. And there was the sergeant with his pace stick monitoring our activities while we were in the hallway sorting through all of our things. And yeah, there was a little bit of an intimidation factor going on there.
absolutely.
You know, so do you want to share some of your experience with like, does anything stand out for you with basic training or anything that because I know you were a cadet at a young age.
I was, and then I joined the reserves as well.
Hmm.
And so, having lived in the military family, I kind of understood the machine as well. But again, whether you understand the machine or not, it's the people that make the machine work, as we know, right?
Yes.
So, go to Cornwallis, and I already had my 2 years of reserve time, but I went to Cornwallis because I was short a few days from a direct transfer into the regular force. So we go to this experimental platoon. We're all going to be combat arms guys, whether you're going to be infantry, artillery, what have you. You're all going to 7th platoon. Well, 7th platoon, it was almost like penal platoon, right? all the guys that were in trouble, it seemed that
Oh,
we were all there, and
all
we
the
had some
troublemakers.
airborne pathfinders and whatever else for instructors, and I mean, great instructors. But as great instructors as they were really well adept to issuing out punishment, right? So most of our punishment, because these guys were airborne, was running. So we would run all over Cornwall, CFP Cornwallis. And for people that are familiar with that area, there's a lot of hills and whatnot. And so where I'm going with this is that we were a really fit bunch because we ran all the time. But when it came to the drill test that we had to do, we weren't so good.
You were too busy running around the base instead of marching up and down the parade square.
I mean, we all passed.
Oh,
It was challenging, right? But when you're talking about the duffel bag, you know, if I dig hard enough in my stuff, I probably have stuff that was issued to me in Cornwallis back in 1981, 81. So they gave me a pair of drill boots that were too big. And I said, well, these are too big for me. I said, well, you'll grow into them. What do you mean? I'm going to grow into my boots? I could see if I had like a T-shirt or I don't know, what have you. Grow into my boots. I still have them. Right? I still haven't grown into them.
No.
But yeah, so that Cornwallis was a great experience, and this is where I guess was my big first lesson into group dynamics.
Yes.
Because when you join the reserves, usually it's territorial or it's people from the same region. So whether it's Maritimes or out west or wherever, but now you're dealing with people from across the nation. And it's great because the perspective from somebody from Newfoundland, Labrador to somebody from BC, two different, but now these instructors need to make these guys gel, right? So it was interesting times. And again, when back then, discipline was given in a different form than it is today.
Right.
What I mean by that is like when I was talking about, we ran everywhere, but there was also push-ups. It was more physical punishment.
Right.
Yeah. And then when I say punishment, it was just at times we deserved it as well, right? So
right.
They had a job to do, and they did it. And at the end of it, that's fine. It's, you know, you understand that. Even though you're, you know, when you're on push-up number 50, you're going, you know, adjective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It makes it memorable. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Yes. Well, I remember when we first showed up in our uniforms and our berets aren't formed right, and some people didn't take the lining out, so it's like we looked really goofy and new with a little cornflake hat badge, and getting having a lecture on protocol, just basic protocol, like you don't wear your beret into the mess hall or into the junior ranks mess. If you're walking across the parade square, you will march. If you're in civilian attire and you're standing in a group and you see an officer approach, you come to attention. You don't salute, but you come to attention. You don't salute without if in uniform, you don't salute without your headdress. Unlike other militaries.
We broke the rule, Marc. This is what we did this morning.
I'm allowed to break the rules now.
Right.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Jill. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. That's great.
I was going, oh my gosh, I didn't have my headdress on, and I saluted Marc.
Right?
I had mine on.
Yes. So
lots of rules.
And there are regimental protocols in different regiments. I don't know, Marc, you would probably be able to touch on this more than I, but there's mascots, there's the colors, the regimental colors, and battle honors that are listed on the regimental colors, which is a regimental flag. And so lots of traditions and history with our regiments. Mm-hmm.
So it's very good point, Joe, because depending on what corps you belong to, like the infantry, all the infantry regiments in the battalions, they have their colors, right? And on their colors, there should be battle honors, whatnot. In the Armor Corps, we have what we call a guidon, right?
A what?
A guidon, which is an old French term for a flag, but on the flag is all their battle honors, because in battle, they would point to a senior soldier to grab the guidon, and when they charged, because our background's cavalry,
right,
you follow the guidon to battle, right?
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then for the artillery, they're actually their colors. They don't call them colors. It's their guns, right? Because their guns are what makes the battle for them, right?
That's
So
right.
every corps or unit has their own things. And back to again my unit, the Girard is in the front hall of our regimental building, and when you come into the building, you salute the Girard. In respect, obviously, but also to remember all our colleagues that have fallen and where we've served. Right.
Mhm.
Just last year, they presented another battle honor to our Girard for Afghanistan. Right.
Oh, wow.
Most of us have served over there. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful. And I'm also thinking now of protocols. Remember, you and I met at the War Museum in Ottawa in 1992, working with the UN exhibit, because that year the UN had won the Nobel Peace Prize. And we were active with the UN in Bosnia at that time. And so you and I met at this exhibit that they had set up in front of the old War Museum, which was down on the Byward Market. And our pictures are all over Asia. All these
I
Bosnian
remember that.
tourists. And and I remember I would have to walk through downtown Ottawa, and if I walked past the cenotaph, I would salute. I would any kind of motorcade with like a funeral procession. You stand and you salute. If you walk past any kind of like a Canadian, like a monument, any kind of monument,
Yeah.
yes, and um, yeah, and dress and deportment. When you were out and about, you had your headdress on in
Mhm.
public, and the
Yes.
only time you removed it is if you were seated in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue. What I'm going to share is for me, because we all joined the military for a variety of reasons, and for me, it started like my dad wouldn't buy me any boots. I said, well, if I join the army, I'm going to get some boots, right? But I came to realizing that when they put that Canadian flag on my shoulder, that I was there to serve, and that's what I wanted to do. So again, representing our great country all over the world became very significant for me and the rest of my career. And I used to tell the troops we have to represent what we are and what we bring, right? And it's a
And
sign of recognition now throughout the world, right?
mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Because we had a reputation over in Europe from World War II and World War I, but most recently in the Netherlands, for example, we were treated
We
very
still
well.
do.
Mhm.
Still
Mhm.
do. Let me share this story for you. Like I'm a member of the Legion. And 2018 was a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the end of or the armistice
Yes.
in World War One. So I got selected amongst a cast of thousands to go represent the Legion in Belgium,
Oh,
and it was really something that again just resonated in me for a long time. And I read Flanders Fields to 10,000 people on
oh,
the square in Mons, right?
oh,
And it was like, holy, these people are so grateful for Canada and the things that they've done to liberate Belgium
Mhm.
that today uh, they're still wanting to be part of us as well, right?
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that one moment because we had toured a couple small villages and the children coming up and asking you for your name and address and autographs and all that. So again, it's an opportunity that I had, and that
Mhm.
still marks
Mhm.
me today for having served our country.
Mhm.
You reminded me of when you talk about the square in Mons in Belgium. That square has such history. Um, I was over I went to the Vimy rededication in 2007, and it was the 90th anniversary of the Battle for Vimy Ridge.
Mm.
and they had regiments. They had an honor guard. They had a veteran contingent. All the dignitaries, the Prime Minister, Governor General, RCMP, they were all there. And I flew over on my own and was a spectator. And I wore my medals the day of this special event in Arras near Vimy. And the veterans marched through the town of Arras, and the local population came out and just embraced them. And people had their windows open in their condominium, in their apartments, in the square, and the cheers for the Canadians. And I remember this little child came up to me, and he was speaking French, and and his father asked me in English. He wants to know, where did you get your medals? And I said, well, I was in the military, and I lived in Europe for a few years, and it was one of the most. It was such a beautiful experience, and there were thousands of people that came out. And this is before all the security now, and it's a different environment in France now, but. It was so special. I'm so glad I made the effort to be there. Yeah.
I have a little something I'd like to share, Marc, when you're done.
Sure.
Around
but just let me tell you this one story, and because for me, when children do stuff like that or things like that, it really warms me, like just like from head to toe. And I always remember this is fall exercise in Germany. And it was just raining and raining and raining. And of course, because it's an exercise, we still have to put sentries out and all this. So I'm going down to check our sentry position. I show up, and there's this little German girl holding an umbrella over top of our soldier.
Oh.
Back then, we didn't have cell phones. I may have.
No, you couldn't take a picture.
Opportunity missed, but
right?
it's still in here like it was yesterday. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
All right, over to you, Laurie.
Well, as you know, I was not in the military myself, but my dad was a World War II veteran. And so there were little snippets of things that would crop up because, Jill, you asked me, were there anything that as a child of a veteran growing up? And I see we have Sylvia Somerville here today, and her dad was in special forces in Italy during World War II. And we've shared lots of stories. But anyway, my husband and I, at the time, we were going to Europe on a 21-day, 9-country tour. And I was telling, Dad was all excited, of course, because we were going to England and all the different places. And he said, just a minute, I've got something for you to wear when you go over there. So he came downstairs, and he had this little tiny Canadian lapel pin. All right. He said, now, you wear this when you go over there. Right there. He said, otherwise, they'll think you're an American. And he said, you'll get a much nicer reception if you have that Canadian flag on there.
Yeah.
So even he knew that they had, well, we all know the history, but at the same time, it was a connector for him to have me go over there. And my sister went to England as well. So, yeah, that just came up as you were talking about the Canadian factor and how much you were loved and appreciated there.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Even last year, 2023 was the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Sicily. So one of my airborne brothers, which Jill knows as well, Rocher Chabot, called me up. He says, Marc, I need some help. I'm there. So anyways, we go to Sicily to do some documentary work. And, again, young children. And even, well, we had both spectrums. We had Sicilians who were children when World War II was on, and they were being liberated. And we also had young children from today chatting with us and all that, and again, showing their appreciation. So it's great feeling. So.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to get back to military culture. I'm curious now, because I know, Marc, you're going to be able to help me out with this. Yeah. Different regiments also have different rank names.
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
this is funny.
you know, like with the Armored Corps, you're a trooper. With the artillery, you're a sapper? Or is that
No, that's the engineers.
engineers? So,
Yeah.
do you want to? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Again, for the Armored Corps, because our origin is cavalry, cavalry soldiers are called troopers, right?
Mhm.
Because troops of horses and whatnot. So as a young private, we were never called privates; we were called troopers. And then in the olden times, then you had like lance corporal and all that, which became corporal, and then master corporal and all that. In the infantry, they are not referred to privates. Normally, they're referred to as riflemen.
Yes.
That may have changed. I have to remember I retired in 2015.
Mhm.
Things have changed, but
Mhm.
they were called riflemen as a private. And then, again, corporal, master corporal, sergeant, warrant officer, and then NWO, master warrant officer, and then chief warrant officer. But again, in the infantry, they would have what they called DSM, which is the drill sergeant major. So
Mhm.
he was like a fifth or sixth master warrant officer who was the disciplinarian. He did all the foot parades and whatnot. So
Would that
there's
have
that.
been the equivalent of in the PPCLI, the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry? They had a QMSI.
Yes.
Thought, who's that? He was, and yeah, this guy was never happy.
That's part of the job.
Quartermaster.
Quartermaster senior instructor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So there was that. And again, in the artillery, you had gunners who were your privates, and then you had your bombardiers, your corporals, master bombardiers, master corporal, and then after that, the ranks were pretty well the same. But then they had, and I apologize, I have to go through my Rolodex of.
Mhm.
They had different names for some of the senior non-commissioned member ranks, as in. Oh, it'll come to me. But I'm just touching on the ranks for the non-commissioned members.
Mhm.
Then in the engineers, you had sappers.
Mhm.
And what else did they have in there? I apologize, I can't remember
Yeah.
at the moment. But again, in the officer world, you had squadron commanders.
Yeah.
You had officer commanding. You had your COs, commanding officer.
Adjutants.
And that was pretty, yeah.
Mhm.
And that was pretty standard for everyone throughout the officer ranks.
Mhm.
There, or the artillery, there might have been battery.
Battery
I won't say.
commander. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that, so I'll leave that
Yeah.
alone. But it reminded me that if you were the sergeant major of the artillery battery, then you would be the BSM, battery sergeant major,
Okay.
right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also I remember in the PPCLI, they had the pioneer platoon.
yes.
These were the guys, were the only fellas in the regiment at the time who could grow a beard.
Correct.
And their ceremonial uniform was, they had an axe, and these guys were the carpenters, and I had them make some things for me on the side. I think a CD, a cat condo and a CD rack or something. I was like, hey guys, want a side project? I'll pay you.
So do you know why they wear beards?
No,
No.
please tell me.
So the story that's been related to me is that these fellas who were handy were working, and they were always ahead of the battalions, either building some trenches or some obstacle for the enemy that so they couldn't attack. So apparently there was royalty that came to inspect the battalion. So of course these guys get pulled in, and they're not shaven, because they've been working hard and all this, and they were just like the way they were. And this person in the royalty said, Well, they're allowed to keep that now.
Okay.
That's what they do, so they can keep their beards and whatnot. So if there's a military historian out there that knows more than I do, please let us know.
Yeah.
But that's the story that was related to me. That it was on the, I don't want to say it was a queen or king or whomever. They said, oh yeah, yes, you're fine. You can keep your beards. So
yes. Oh, they look sharp on parade with this beautifully groomed beards. They look really sharp.
Yeah, like our unit, we have scarlets again back from our cavalry days. Scarlet uniform, because again, Canadian Army was built on the British Army, and scarlet was a popular color back then. So, especially for mounted troops.
Right. Right. You're reminding me now of the time I spent with ceremonial guard in Ottawa, changing of the guard. And we had 2 regiments. We had the Canadian Grenadier Guards out of Montreal, and then the Governor General's Foot Guards based in Ottawa at Cartier Square Drill Hall. And that drill hall has a lot of history. And, the parade route from Cartier Square all the way up to Parliament Hill, and, the streets lined with tourists, and the history, just the pomp and pageantry of, the scarlet tunic, the band, the bearskin busbies, and the ceremony itself. It drew thousands of tourists every day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I have a question too. I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
When you're done, Marc.
Oh, go ahead.
How do you feel about? I had this discussion with Ron the other day. And because of, being more involved with you guys and hearing different things that I didn't know. I'm a student today. I'm learning. And I said to Ron, what they should bring back is conscription. Every young person should have to spend 2 years serving their country. And maybe that would get some of our young people on a good path. Because a lot of kids coming out now out of school, they don't know what they want to do. They're confused about a career choice. Should I go to university? But hey, they pulled Elvis off the stage. So what are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Marc.
So like anything, there's pros and cons.
Okay.
For everything that you said, Laurie, it'd be a pro, because I see it in some of my own children at one point in time where they didn't have a rudder, right? My son, he joined the reserves, and then basically started understanding that life is not free, right?
Right.
And so anyways, he chose a career path, and now he's an aircraft electrician in Halifax, and he's doing great. So for all that, I say yes. But having been an instructor and part of the big training style, the cost of doing that would be phenomenal. And I don't want to really get into politics, but the cost itself, and when I say cost, it's not just money, it's the materials, it's the people hours, and the list just goes on. And what happens afterwards. When people get injured, then there's a cost to that as well. So,
yeah, I hear you.
To me, I'd like to see some of it, but at what point can we sustain it? I don't know, because we lived through an era not too long ago when Afghanistan was on, and they were recruiting. Well, but they found out that they had all these people sign up, but they didn't have instructors, they didn't have the equipment, that. So then, for example, and I'll use this trade. I'm not picking on any trade here, but so these people want to be cooks within the military. So at CFB Borden in Ontario, they have a cook school there. But because they couldn't handle the influx of people, they sent them to I think it was George Brown College, downtown Toronto, to learn how to become a cook.
Mhm.
So they're learning their trade in a civilian environment, and now you have to pull them out of there and institute to them that now you're in the military,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So it was almost a bit of like a tug of war, and that's
Yeah.
only there are many other trades.
Mhm.
Not so much on the combat arms side because we have our own schoolhouses for that, but more for the logistical and support trades. It's huge. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's my experience and my thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you. Jill, what about you? How do you feel about conscription?
I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Conscription meaning forcing someone to do something.
Yeah.
You have to sign up and give us 2 years of your. I know that they do have it in some European countries,
Mhm.
but it's not for like I think you get it's a lottery. It's not everyone goes through conscription, but if your number comes up, off you go, and you become part of the reserve force after your 3 years of service. Then you're on a supplementary list, and you show up once a year for refresher training and running through safety drills for your community, etc. Like I'm thinking Denmark, and so but what I'm thinking, like what goes through my mind is, yeah, military conscription for uh, people, for young people, to help them with, to appreciate Canada, to understand our history, and also to get discipline and to build, develop skills. Why don't we do it a different way? Why don't we bring in facilitators through Self-Worth University to provide programs for young people instead of, basic training or remedial training and like reform school? Why not develop some programs for youth that provides discipline, guidance,
Mhm.
skills training, etc. That's where my mind goes when you
Yeah,
suggest
for
that.
sure. Well,
It, it,
we do have youth products for youth
Yes.
in the whole arena of confidence building, communication skills,
Mhm.
and
yeah.
the repair of self worth. Mark.
So I'd like to add two things here.
Yeah.
Number one, the whole cadet program, whether it's
Mm.
Air Cadets or Navy Cadets, or was all based on citizenship. It was
Ah.
never really based on you becoming a soldier or sailor or what have you. It's mainly on citizenship. But unfortunately, because society changes and all that, people don't always recognize it for that. Uh, but that's what the program was built on. Now,
I didn't know that.
yes, yeah, no, it's history at one time where a cadet corps in a rural area, well, hey, I'll learn to shoot a rifle because, hey, I live on a farm, so on
Mhm.
and so forth.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was acceptable. But now, given the temperature on the firearms and all that, tough.
Mhm.
The other thing that could happen in conscription. So if you start, like Joe said, taking people and telling them you're going to do this, you may not always get good people. You're
Mhm.
going to be bringing in, people that have other issues
Yes. Yeah.
in a white scope.
Yeah.
And I don't want to point fingers at anything or
Mhm.
No.
any issues,
Mhm.
but you read the paper and you know what society has.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I think about my dad, 18, at 18, he was off to the war. And I look at our 18-year-olds today, and they can't even make their own snack. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
I guess that's where my head goes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mommy's still delivering the snack on a plate, and the kids on the couch with their phones or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
not saying, and I'm like you, Mark, I don't want to point fingers. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm just generally speaking that
Yeah.
if you look at, my dad, 18 and going over there, and
Yeah.
then an 18-year-old today, well, you'd be hard pressed to get them off the phone long enough to
Mhm.
perhaps take a lesson.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned the cooks, this is a little story from my side of the fence. My dad's older brother, my Uncle Wolford, went over first. And then my dad went over after that because he was too young at the very beginning. So he gets across on the boat. They get on a bus. They get on a train. They finally land at the camp in England. And who's the first person he sees is the camp cook. My Uncle Wilford peeling carrots in a big barrel. And the two brothers got to be together the rest of the war.
Oh,
Like,
that's great.
yes,
story.
yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Funny.
So yeah, I
So-
didn't want to belabor the conscription thing, but I was just curious because, you know, I do work with a lot of young people
Mhm.
and, you know, misdirected, misguided, you know, broken homes, addictions. I mean, there's just so many issues around them.
Yeah.
It's really hard for some of them to get on a straight path.
Yeah, and society has changed, and I think the expectations of young people are way different than when I
Yes.
was that age. Because I go back to, like, my dad was military, and I was shining his boots, and I was like doing all that
Yes.
stuff for him. I didn't need to conscript me. I'm going because I'll
Yes.
shine my own boots and I get paid for it.
Right.
Now my brother he joined cadets at 12. He couldn't wait. He was playing with plastic army men, you know, that tub of army men when he
Yes.
was 4. And I thought, why would you volunteer to be yelled at and to be, you know, marching up and down the parade square and not get paid for it and get yelled at by some guy? And I thought, no, I'm not volunteering for that. But then all of a sudden, the reserves show up, and I said, "What? You get paid? Oh, well, maybe that is a something I can try. And if Kim did it, I can do it too." My sister was always the one she went ahead of me, you know, 10 months older. She'd be there for she did it first, and she said, "Oh, Jill, you'll have so much fun." And so yeah, but I never thought I would ever volunteer to be yelled at.
I
Right on.
volunteered to jump out of an airplane.
Yes, with full
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they don't force anybody to do that, right? It's all on a volunteer basis.
And
Right.
you did it. Now, Now, the airborne culture, that's a culture within the military.
Absolutely.
Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So let me just take a couple of heartbeats there. I go back
Yeah.
into time. So back then, the airborne school was in Edmonton.
Yes.
So like I said earlier, I volunteered to do this. So there's about 30 some odd of us show up. And of course, you do the PT test, and you got to run so I think it was a mile under so many minutes and do so many push-ups, so many chin-ups and all that. And if you didn't pass, you're week out, right?
Oh, it's brutal.
And they didn't have time because they only
pressure.
had 3 weeks, right? Which 15 days to make you a paratrooper, right? So if you didn't cut on the first day, that was done.
Mhm.
So obviously I made it. And then again, in my prior experience at boot camp, we just started running. We ran for 3 weeks
Mhm.
everywhere we went. But while you were in there, regardless if you were a trooper, sergeant, we even had a major, 2 majors on our course. Everybody's the same.
Oh, you had no rank.
You are a trainee, right?
Oh.
So when they'd give you words of command to get out and get up in the rigs or put on your training harness or whatever that was called that day, everybody was on the same footing.
Mhm.
Everybody.
Mhm.
And that was the same throughout till the end. But inside the jump school at that time, they had the student rest area, which was called Heartbreak Hotel. Right? And in the Heartbreak Hotel, they had a big full-size mirror, and they had a caption over top of that that said, "The only person that can fail this course, you are looking at them," or something like that.
Oh.
So saying the onus is on you. We're just going to train you, But if you can't make it, you're out. You're weak, out, right? And then right beside that, they had a big board with all the parachutist wings, right, and names underneath.
Oh.
So throughout the course, when people were failing out, so you'd look at yourself in the mirror, you'd look at the board, and you'd see the name left there, but no wings.
Oh.
Right? So that was kind of your incentive to keep working hard. And of course, the last PO check is performance objective there, Laurie. PO check was to leave the aircraft.
Yes.
But before that, they had the mock tower.
I hear that that's even harder than the jumping out of the plane. The mock tower.
You would just be bruised. Your shoulders, chest would just be bruised from the shock because there actually no give. The cables, steel cables at the top would stop you and you'd bounce around and all that.
Right.
But even before that, and again, this was the thing, was you would have to go up and walk the 32 steps to the jump platform and leave. And that's where a lot of guys failed. Because then they realized how high they were and they'd say, I can't do this. And of course, because it was a pretty tough world, well, then walk down the 32 steps of shame.
Oh.
Right? And you're weak. Away you go.
Yes.
Wow.
So from there, it just, it builds character. And then again, in jump school and on one of the big walls, there was a big mural and it had Field Marshal Montgomery's profile. And it had a caption said, and the caption said, "Airborne makes a good man better." And that was kind of our creed, right? Because they were just doing their job, and if you weren't making it, out you go, right? And then when you're a trainee, you don't always understand the big picture. But when I went back on my jump master course, and again on my parachute instructor course, then you start understanding you're dealing with people's lives.
Yes.
Right. So there's not any margin of error. You got to be precise in what you're doing. You have to memorize each and every step so that everybody exits the aircraft safely, right, and gets to the ground safely as well. So, and then you get badged, and then your parachute stories start, and you meet a bunch of great guys, and it just and it's a brotherhood within another brotherhood. And, people look at you saying, "Oh, you're a paratrooper," yeah, because they know that not everybody makes it.
Yes.
And it's similar to a lot of things in the military. Because I remember, Joe, I don't know if you were still in when General Natinchuk was at CDS.
No, I was out by then.
Chief of Defense Staff, Laurie.
Yes.
Okay.
So he said, ladies and gentlemen, it's like this. You fill up the Rogers Center or whatever arena, and you look through there, and there's only going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to make it this far, and then this far, and to attain certain ranks, there's only going to be a few people that are going to make it to general or chief warrant officer or what have you. And that's how the military is built, right? And you have to accept that. And
Kind of sounds like the Olympics, or there was something else. An election, right? So listen, we're getting close to closing time, and this has been an amazing hour of learning. I've jotted a few things down, and Marc, I just want to thank you so very much for stepping in and being part of our show today. And Jill is usually here with me anyway, but Jill, it's always great for you to bring that beautiful smile and personality to the show. It really helps to change, the frame, So thank you, Jill, for your persistence and your support. We really appreciate you.
It's always a pleasure.
Okay. Well, tomorrow I have another East Coast person coming in, Fraser Newcomb. He's a musician and a performer from Nova Scotia, and he'll be my guest tomorrow on our Fun Friday. So you guys have a great day. Safe travels, Marc, and
Yes.
we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same station.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Marc. Thank you, Dr. Laurie. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dr. Laurie. Jill, always a
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay.
Always a pleasure. All right.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.